Okay.
I'd come sooner if I know that.
All right, welcome to our District 3 meeting. Thanks for coming. Wanted to let you guys know that we actually have the sound system totally working. So we don't have to use those.
Seriously.
Unless you can't hear somebody and then we can. And also, Rachel wanted me to let you know that it will pick up everything. It's very sensitive. So for people listening on Zoom, they will be able to hear your side conversations. So if you're having them, it's probably best to go out in the hall so that everyone on Zoom doesn't hear your side conversation. So we're gonna go ahead and start out with the Provo City Library Director, Carla Gordon, and she's gonna talk about truth and taxation for the library for the potential tax increase.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to come and talk to you for a minute. And at any point, please ask questions. I am happy to answer any questions you might have. I have a short presentation that hopefully will cover most things, but we will see. First of all, the website, the City Council's website has a wonderful website put together, a page put together with all of the information about this truth and taxation. It's got a lot of the stuff that's in this presentation, but they did this great infographic, kind of gives you the broad overline. Right now, we started out with an $800,000 shortfall. And there were a bunch of things that contributed to that. One was a tax revenue decrease, not in our property tax, but in our vehicle. And then it's like past tax redemption number. And we just haven't been getting as much as the county had predicted over the last couple of years by about $200,000 to $300,000. So it's a decrease in those revenues and then basic increase in cost of living kinds of things. Everything, inflation, we have to pay more for things as well. And anyway, so I'll kind of go into some of that, but we started with 800,000. We made a bunch of cuts and got it down to about 500,000. And then the county said that our tax revenues were going to be a little higher than they had first anticipated. So the ending number was $450,000 is what we ended up at. And that's what we asked City Council to pass an increase for, so that we would be getting $450,000 additional tax revenue, which for the average taxpayer, about $12 more each year. This is kind of just a big picture of where we get our money from and kind of why we go straight to, well, not straight to, but we rely very heavily on our that property tax revenue, because 81% about, depending on the year, of our revenue is that tax revenue. We have these other two, the vehicle tax and tax exemption previous year are about 12% of our budget. So overall, we're over 90% tax revenue budget. So our fees are like 1%. The rentals for the rooms in the library bring in about 3%. So whenever we can, we try to bring in as much money as possible on those things because we control those. But there's a limit to how much that actually can do when so much of your budget is reliant on tax revenues. That makes sense. Then where does our money, oh, this is from the City Council's website as well. So we get 4% of your property tax goes to the library. So it's a small portion of that big chunk. The city itself gets 14, 18% total. So yeah, that right there. And then ours is just 4% of the total. And then where does our money go? Like a lot of businesses, its majority is personnel. Like we have to pay the people that work at the library. So about 66% of our budget is people. Then you've got our building, which is beautiful, but it's big and kind of expensive sometimes. This last year, this 10% is not usually this big. I hope it isn't usually this big in the future, but if you've ever bought a home about 20, 25 years later, you have to start replacing things and updating things. So we just actually, they turned our chiller on yesterday. We have a brand new chiller, but it cost $500,000 to replace that. So we had a lot of capital projects this past year. There's some parking stuff too that we were doing. Technology, by computers, pay for all of our subscriptions for people that host our website, for our catalog, all of those kinds of contracts. Collections, that's our books, it's about 10%, miscellaneous, all of the other little things, 3% programming. So what we put into the children's program, summer reading program, all of those is about 2% of our budget. And then overheads are chargebacks to the city. So because we're our own kind of budget off on our own, we pay the city for use of their HR, finance, legal department, like their facilities department. We pay back to them for the personnel and services we use that the city pays for. So that's about 8% of our budget this last year. So when we're looking at ways that we can cut, we don't have control over a ton. We can cut back on how many books we're buying. I mean, we can cut out our programming entirely and it's not going to really make a dent into this $450,000 that we were short. So really the only way to cut and balance our budget is to cut staff. And if we cut staff, we do have to cut hours because we won't have enough people to cover all of the desks and keep the building open the hours that we're open. So over the past few years, this yellow line is our personnel, and you'll see that that's one that goes up. This line here is our building expenses, and that's one that's gone up the last little bit because of, again, older building needing to replace some things. Our chargebacks, our operations and expenses have stayed pretty level, but it's that personnel. And it's not that we've added positions, it's that everybody gets a cost of living increase. Everybody gets the merit increases every year, so all of those things. Plus, we did last year raise a lot of our part-time positions because some of them were down as low as $9 an hour, and we were having a hard time hiring anyone. They can just go work at fast food. So we did raise some of those wages up from that. So the cause of the shortfall, there's inflation in there too. Again, raising salaries. We've tried really hard to just keep our operating costs as low as possible. We count every piece of cardstock that we use for programming. We're really careful, but it does hit us just like it hits everyone else. Building costs, again, the building's getting old. We've had to do some additional repairs and things, lower than expected tax revenue, and then our depleted savings. And if you looked back here, you'll see that the top two numbers, the top one is our expenses and the bottom one is our revenues. So we have been running on a deficit for about 10 years. So we have had a shortfall for the past 10 years. And the reason for that was back 20 years ago when we moved into our new building, they raised our mill levy, our tax revenue, to the maximum amount. And we started bringing that money and they found that they didn't need all of it to run the bigger building. They thought they had this new big building, they thought it was going to cost more. So instead of just spending it, they put all of the excess in a savings account in our ending fund balance. And that grew over about 10 years until we hit a point where inflation hit that. And at that point we had, if I'm remembering correctly, like $5 million. It was way more in an ending, it was almost 100% of our operating budget in our savings account, which we didn't really need a savings account that big. That could be debated. But at the time they thought it would be best not to go to our residents and ask for more money. It was to use the money we had saved to keep going without having to ask residents for more money. And every time we did that, we would acknowledge that at some point that would have to be made up. We couldn't dip into our ending fund balance forever. And one reason why we're asking this year is with those big projects, our savings account has depleted more the last couple of years than it was before. So this is our ending fund balance line. You can see it kind of a few years, we would dip into it more if we were replacing carpet or putting a new roof on and things like that. But then the last couple of years, we've had even more. So we want to keep it closer to this 2 million. It just this year hit this 1.5 million is where we're at right now. And it really should be up closer to 2 million so that we have that reserve so that we can take care of our building, so that when we need to do brick repair, so that when we need to update our HVAC, when we're doing all of those things, that we have that in reserve and we're adding to it hopefully every year so that on the years when we have big expenses, we are prepared for that and we are taking care of everything that's happening. So when we had that big $800,000 deficit, we did We've cut some of our building costs. We have an endowment fund, which when they originally built the building, some of that, the money that was raised by the community, there was some extra. They put it in there. We let it build up to $2 million. And there's an agreement that we will keep $2 million in it and just pull out the interest and use it to help with some of these costs that we have for the building. And right now, interest rates are really high, which is really good for us because we have this savings account. So there's a lot more interest being earned right now. And so I decreased our budgeted building costs, planning to use that interest out of the endowment to cover some of those costs instead. We did decrease all of our book and ebook budgeting by 10%. So it's just fewer books that we're buying. Streaming movies and music, we had Freegal and Canopy the last few years. They will be, their subscriptions go through December, but we won't be renewing those, saving about $40,000 there. Our attic exhibits, we are going to do all local exhibits. So we're not the big national ones, the National Geographic ones we bring in, like those are really fun, but they are quite expensive. And so we just won't do those for a while, but we have great local artists and we've had really good luck doing interactive things up there as well. So we hope to keep the attic going, but we will be doing local exhibits instead of national ones. We're postponing some of our technology updates, which is fine because we just got a $290,000 grant from the Utah Education Network, and we were able to update a whole bunch of stuff. And so we were able to update it, and hopefully it was going to keep us going, and we won't have to update those things for a little while. So for a while, we won't need quite as much in our technology budgets. And then the personnel savings through a turnover gap. So you don't hire people right away, always, and so there's always some savings in there. So we work that into the budget to help us meet that balanced budget goal. So that's kind of where we're at. The increase again, so $450,000 is what we're asking for. And again, about $12 per house. Questions do you have? Yeah,
I'm just curious about what meant the, like, an elimination of like the streaming for music and TV. Were you looking primarily at like utilize, like the numbers of people that utilize the services and how you eliminated some of those programs?
Yeah, that was one thing. It was also, we just knew we needed to cut some things to try to make it less of a burden. And they were things that are used, but not so much. Plus they were just really expensive. Each of those services about $20,000 a year. And they are used quite heavily. There are going to be people that miss those. We'd love to be able to put them back, but we also didn't want to come to the taxpayers with an $800,000 deficit. And so it was something that was available to cut.
I'm curious about the mobile pantry, like the mobile book. I
van.
feel the van. I feel like maybe that was launched during COVID. I'm curious about if there's the need now, like how much of that is being utilized.
So
for
the van,
patrons?
yeah, the van itself was purchased through a grant before COVID,
Okay.
and then COVID hit and we took forever to get the van because of the pandemic. We didn't actually get it until after. And what its purpose is to get out into the community, into places that are having a harder time getting to us. So right now we visit, I'm gonna forget the number, 9 to 12, it's somewhere in there, preschools. We go in and do story times. We go to homes like the retirement homes or assisted care facilities where they can't come to us. We go to them, we go to farmers markets. We go to any, especially Title I schools. We try to get into their parent nights or any kind of thing like that. We're now visiting the Franklin Community Center monthly, and we'll take books to check out. We'll receive books to check in, and we're taking computers and a Wi-Fi system. So it's kind of like a mobile computer lab that can be used so that people that, again, can't get from areas of Provo to the library can still have some of our services when needed. So it's partially to get to people who can't come to us, but also we want everyone in Provo to see us and know that they can get a library card. And even now, it blows my mind every time someone asks how much a library card costs. And so trying to get that message out there that if you live in Provo, you get a free library card, make sure you know what services are available to you. Because if you're paying property taxes or rent, you're paying for those things. And we want, especially the people in this need, to know that we're there. And the only way to do that is to get out in the community and get our message to people. And the van has allowed us to do that. There are 2 full-time librarians that do just that. Like they are just out in the community the whole time, and it's been incredible. Our library card signups have gone up the last couple of years because we are getting out there and saying, oh, we're here, let's get you a card now. And then they're getting emails that tell them about the services that they can use.
Okay, thank you for letting me.
Yeah.
So I was just curious about, I don't know if this has anything to do with like money or not, or if it costs us money, but I know that a lot of times when like there's tickets on sale for things, it will say like, if you have an Orem or a Provo library card, you can do that. And I was just curious, like, why are we letting Orem come use our stuff? Kind of, I guess.
Yeah, so we have a reciprocal agreement with Orem, and we have, as long as I know, we also actually used to have one with Springville. However, our collection size and the community size with Provo and Orem is actually very similar with the libraries themselves. And where there are people in Provo, that the closest library is the Orem Library. And so they get to use us and we get to use them. And we actually use it a lot of times. There'll be like databases that we'll subscribe to. By the way, I believe Orem has Canada. So like we'll say, I'm not going to subscribe to this. I'm going to subscribe to a different service because you can get this through the Orem library. And so we try to use it to provide more services, but there is this reciprocal, and we stopped it with Springville because their library is so much smaller. Like it was so much less likely for Springville residents to come use the or Springville residents would come use Provo, but Provo wouldn't be going to Springville necessarily. But we do have a lot of people that go and use this library because they have, their movie collection is better than ours, but they charge for it. Like there's things they do. And so that's been in place for a long time. There have been services before where we have said, you have to be a Provo resident. We don't have anything right now that we're doing that. But it's definitely something the library board can look at if they wanted to start limiting services to Provo and Orem, because we keep the cards designated Provo. Does that help?
Yeah. Have any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. We've got, okay, Rachel is going to go ahead and introduce a couple of zoning items, right?
Right, yes. Okay, just before we start, just remind everyone to please be respectful. The developers and people wanting to change zones in Provo, they are not required to attend a neighborhood meeting. So they're coming, using their time to come speak with us directly. So make sure to be respectful and also take advantage of this time where you can speak directly to the developer. Some thoughts to consider: what are the potential benefits or potential downsides of a zone change? And why is this change better than what currently exists? A common question we get is, can we ask for a development agreement? The answer is no. Residents and Provo City staff cannot ask for a development agreement, but you can ask, how will you guarantee to address my concerns? If you still have questions after these presentations, they're going to be really short, and we're going to give them about half an hour for each one. We have 2 tonight. The project slides will be available online on the District 3 webpage. And also, if you grabbed a agenda, you have the contact information for the city planner. That's really the best person to speak to. And so for this first item, which is the zone map amendment for at 484 North, 2760 West. Mary, correct me if I'm wrong. Are we still in the review process, or is that review process done, and have we set dates for the planning commission?
We've set a date for planning commission. It'll be August 14th.
Okay, so August 14th. So we're kind of right here. So August 14th for the planning commission. Public is welcome to come to those public hearings and say, if you love this project, if you don't love this project, that's your time to speak out. It'll also go to the city council. And again, we encourage the public to speak there if you're for or against or have any concerns about the project. We'll turn it over to you, Mary.
Cool, thank you. So this is pretty straightforward, but essentially I have just a quick context map, but there's this property in the Lakewood, let's see, the Lakeview South Neighborhood, just off of Lakeshore Drive in 620 North. It's a 1.5 acre property. You can see right there on that current zoning map, the property has this small like leftover agricultural zone kind of jagged within the property. It's also half R18 zone, which is the single family zoning that surrounds this whole neighborhood area. So the applicant is proposing to rezone it to just completely R18. He wants to subdivide it into 2 lots. There'd be a flag lot. That's where the current existing house is, and then a lot up the front, lot 2. Lot 2 is going to be about 18,000 square feet. Lot 1 is going to be about 48,000 square feet. And with this subdivision, the applicant will also improve the frontage on 2670 West. So that's just the basic overview of what this rezone is about. It's kind of we don't know where that agricultural zoning came from. We just think it's some leftover from what it probably used to be. This whole area probably used to be agricultural. So this is really just a way to fix that and make it match the rest of the surrounding. Any questions? The applicant's here tonight as well.
Is that one lot entirely
Yeah,
as far as, is this combined right now, or are these 2 separate parcels?
that's a different property owner. On the west, he does not want to develop or subdivide his property at this time.
Any questions, concerns?
Hey, too easy. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. We're running ahead of time. That's awesome. Okay.
I know, I get a tap dance. I can't, so I'm not going to.
Okay, and then Rachel's gonna
Yeah.
introduce.
Our next one is the Finches. They had come about a year ago to talk about their plan for the agritourism. And they graciously agreed to come again. They've made some changes since last year. And so they have come again, and they're still in the review process, right?
Yes.
So things may change because we're still in the review process, has not set a date yet for the planning commission or the city council. Okay, and we'll let the Finches go ahead.
Well, this property is just by Amelia Earhart Elementary and the Stake Centers. It's just down the road. There's a little farmyard there that we're going to put a wedding venue in.
Do you want to do the next slide?
Oh, yeah.
Or
Okay, so currently the 3 homes are here in the 3 homes in front. And then so there's 3 homes here with where the RA is, and we just separated them from the farmyard here. This is what it could look like. So as you come off of 280, so the upper top is where the school is. So you just come in there, be a long stretch parking lot, and then the venue down the bottom. So you'll go through the farmyard, which we're beautifying and making it into a nice horse boarding ranch looking facility. So you kind of drive through this fun horse boarding area, and then it opens up into this rustic barn venue. And this is what it should look like. When we're done with the barn. Any questions?
I'm just a little bit, what's different about when you applied a year ago? Like changes are you wanting
I
to?
think we originally tried to maybe fit it into the top part.
Okay, so
There
you're
just
moving
wasn't
the
enough
location.
space. We ended up putting it at the end.
Also, the
Oh.
big difference is that we have broken off. We have 3 homes on 2470,
Okay,
and they now each are their own residential lot.
Oh.
And then the tan rectangle has been formed into this agritourism lot.
Okay.
Does that
The
make
city
sense?
required that,
So that's why we're here, is to just let you guys know that we've made that change. And the houses are no longer connected, so to speak, they're connected, but they're not connected as a
Zoned
lot.
differently.
yeah, the city required that to be able to apply for the agritourism zone, that the land needed to be its own, that it's going on top.
And you guys worked with the city for this agritourism zone,
Yes.
right? This wasn't a zone before you guys.
created it.
You guys worked with them to.
They've
come up
created
with
it, and we're in the
right?
process of applying for it.
Actually, I think we've applied for it and I think we have been granted it.
Yeah.
We're just the,
That's why you're here. You're in the process of the application to apply the overlay.
okay, because all our paperwork is in for the application for the AT zone. And we're getting information in there to finish for the rest of the project. Is that correct, Erin? You've got all my stuff for the AT zone.
So yes, we have the application that's going through the review process right now. Yep.
Last time I checked the review process, there was no comments. Everyone was good.
No, that's not the case.
Okay, I will check on
I
that.
can get you that. Okay.
Any questions? Yes.
Some questions. So the agritourism, you have to keep part of it as agricultural, right? And is
See,
that
yes,
and
yes,
that's that horse sporting
yes.
area. And the reason you're going for in that one little spot agritourism instead of like I guess a commercial zone, it is.
Yes, we don't want to lose our agricultural rights, our animal rights, our farming, you know, the agricultural, we don't want to lose our agricultural
Right,
zone.
and I don't want you to lose that.
So
either.
the AT zone will lay on top of the agricultural
But it's
zone.
only gonna be in that one little area.
It lays over the whole parcel.
We're gonna do it for the whole parcel.
That's the requirement of the
That's what I
city.
was
It goes over the
understanding.
whole parcel.
Okay.
So we've separated the homes. They're now their own entity, just like
Okay.
your house is on whatever acreage it is. But the rest of the acreage now is an agritourism zone, which is just under 9 acres
All right, thank you.
Any questions?
right there.
So I do know that something that seemed like it was kind of an issue last time was, and Aaron may be able to speak to this, but that if you guys got the agritourism overlay, would that apply to everybody else's everyone else who had, was it A1?
Anyone else would have to apply and go through the process just like we are. So they would have to.
So
they would
there's
have
no
to go through-
automatic overlay
They would
to
have to
all
go
of
through the review and everything that we've had to go through.
That's why they want us not to do amendment. They want to do a new zone so that people go through the application process.
So essentially, this is a way for farm ground to stay farm ground. If I take this small farm and I give it to my kids when they're in their 40s, they already have their careers, and the first thing they're gonna do is sell it. Right? And then we say goodbye to that land, we'll never come back. This way I can hand them 2 businesses on my property that will ensure that that stays open spaces and the state has an influence in terms of agriculture in this community for generations.
And if I remember right from the last time you guys came, I think that this is probably the biggest difference is that you guys have worked with the city for this agritourism zone. Before it was a different zone that, or overlay that allowed for a variety of different activities within it.
The
There was
first
a lot of
process
concerns
was
about, right?
we went to the staff and they said, it's either this way or that way. This way was we were gonna lose our animal rights. So that didn't make sense to us. So we went this way, which was an amendment to the existing zone. So we made it all the way up through to the city council and they said, not a chance in the world we're gonna do that. And so we've spent the last year going back and building this new zone.
Yeah.
To apply to anyone that would have a green color on their map, but they would have to go through the same process of screening and so forth that we have. And all the rules and things that we've had to comply with, they would have to.
Sure.
But it is open to all different kinds of agritourism. As many as we can think of. 5, 10 years from now, I mean, 15 years ago, had anybody heard of corn mazes and, you know, some of the weird things that we do now? I'm sure in other parts of the country, you might have a wine tasting venue, you know, in some vineyard area. That makes sense there. It doesn't make sense here. So what's around the corner, we don't know. That could be added in, who knows, but there is a list of the current list of agritourism approved activities.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
And just a reminder for both of these items, when, if you live really close by, you're going to receive a postcard telling you when the meetings are, the public hearings. It'll also be posted on the Provo City website and on social media. You can, if you can't attend the meetings, you can write to the Planning Commission at dspublichearings@provo.org, and you can write to the council at council@provo.org. If these are something you want to see, or if you have any concerns, or you don't want to see it happen, that's, make sure to let Planning Commission and City Council know your opinion.
And right now, there's no current date for you guys to meet with them, right? That's still in process.
We do not.
It's a moving date. It's always next.
All right.
We're targeting next week. How's that?
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so we are gonna go ahead and have Sherry McCabe. So, thanks so much for coming. She's gonna talk about a few school district items.
Yes. No microphone?
We have like a whole system now that can hear you.
Sweet.
So,
Hear you very well.
All right, okay. I'm Terry McCabe from the school board. Brooke asked me to tell you about the boundary study. We haven't done a whole lot on that except review applicants to do the RFP. So we haven't approved anyone yet. But school starts on Tuesday and the first school board meeting of the school year is also on Tuesday. And that agenda item is on the school board. Yes.
So I haven't heard anything about the boundary. I don't have kids in schools anymore.
Oh.
So tell me, can you just explain to,
We're going to study everything. I mean, it's been a really long time since the elementaries and the middle schools and the high schools. And we're also gonna study all the programs, the DLI programs, the dual language immersion, for those of you who don't know what DLI is. And the CAS, the gifted and talented program, where everything's on the table. We're doing a comprehensive boundary study. So if you have questions or if you have an idea, let me know. We're putting everything on the boundary study. Yeah. And
Oh, sorry.
no,
What's your, so you said you're working on going through applicants to actually complete that study?
Yeah.
What are you like looking for as far as applicants or, you know, what's?
they've already presented to us and we've already rated them. I'm waiting to hear back how those board, which one we're gonna pick.
It's like a company?
Yeah.
Okay,
We had 3 companies apply and I don't know which one won. I'll find out on Tuesday.
How long does it take?
It just depends on all the things that we're studying. One of my concerns was that in the presentation, it sounded like the companies thought we were only doing the elementary schools, and I'm like, no. We're doing everything. They need to understand we're studying everything. I mean, we just moved to middle school, so those boundaries need to be fixed. I mean, I don't know the last time Timpview and Provo boundaries have ever been looked at. Who knows? So, yeah, we're doing everything. Yeah,
So we don't know how long it, like how many months or like where?
I'm hoping only 1 school year. Yeah. Hopefully. That's my hope.
And what does this entail? Like what, like to study because we're studying the programs, are you looking at like utilization of the programs, how effective they are as well? Like,
Yeah, and if, for those of you who didn't know, the whole school district is under improvement by the state. Not just specific schools, but the whole school district. So we're really focusing on, especially after we're just finishing up the strategic plan. And one of those top things that you guys who filled out a survey wanted us to focus on was academic achievement. And that after being under improvement from the state, that's obviously something we need to work on. So that's what we're doing, not just geographic boundaries, but also all programs.
What does that mean, Terry, that the school district's on improvement from the state?
It means that too many kids are either not graduating or certain demographics are not graduating, or they're not passing starting in third grade, they have to take the RISE test. They're not passing the RISE test in elementary schools. Yeah,
These are state standards.
yeah,
The state will come in and take over programs and
Yeah.
districts and
so currently Franklin Elementary School is under improvement. They call it CSI, Comprehensive School Improvement from the state. That's like the lowest you can be. And then some targeted programs, like Independence was under improvement for graduation rates, but they're not anymore. Sunset View was under improvement for their special ed program, but they're not anymore. So we're gradually getting our way. And last year when Wendy Dow, the superintendent, started the change of all the the structure of the school district, that was one of the things she did, was so that we could get out of improvement, changing jobs and principals and everything, so we could work our way out.
is there a question over here?
so one of the, like, is one of the outcomes of the boundary study is to kind of like even out the schools where it's not necessarily like, we're just looking at what's closest in proximity, but what the needs are, and like this school is struggling, can we pull in some students that can boost numbers and test scores this way? Is
Yeah.
that like kind of what we're
So-
looking at as well?
If you look at the neighborhood chart over there, Franklin South is being bused way over to Spring Creek Elementary School.
Yeah.
When they're in walking distance to Franklin. That doesn't make any logical sense.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is help the kids do that. I mean, these kids are in walking distance to Shoreline. They're, yeah, so you live here, you're being bused way over to here.
So we're looking more to solve proximity issues or more to solve
Yeah,
like financial and academic goals?
yeah, and these kids could walk to Shoreline. I mean, we're trying to solve everything, hopefully.
What would be like the overriding criteria, like how is it weighted? Like, is it like boundaries are more important, or like we're trying to hit these target
We haven't
goals,
decided
or-
that.
Okay. Cause I know one thing, so I'm on the school board, well, I was on the school community council for Dixon Middle School. And one of the things that is difficult with the state trust lands money is that, or like funding in general, like the Title I or whatever, like when you throw into like seminary, when you add that into high schools, like when the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is paying for more teachers because there's more enrollment in seminary, then like it messes up kind of the funding that way.
Yeah.
And different schools have different numbers of students that are enrolled in seminary, but that's not something taken into consideration, I guess. And so are we trying to even out, because some of it is a real funding issue for.
Yeah, you could also, Marcia and her replacement, and tell them, give us more money.
I'm trying. Some of us are trying. Oh, I think the problem is we keep taking, like, you mean unfunded mandates that you have to
Yes.
spend money on?
Like the armed guardian programs,
Yeah, exactly.
$50 million. And we're only getting $500.
Really?
Yes. In the law, the school district is given $500 per armed guardian. Except that the School Business Administrators Association has projected the bill will cost $50 million just for the armed guardian section.
And that's one program that we
Yeah.
made up last session. There's
Yeah,
Are you guys looking at the economic feasibility of continuing the dual immersion program since there's such a high dropout rate that by the time they get to
yeah.
or
And
there's like
I-
5 students in one.
I
teacher?
wanna look at too is, when I went to Tenfield, we had like 6 languages being taught at Tenfield. And now because of DLI, there's only 3. Like, that's not giving kids options. You know? So that's something I'm concerned about. Any other questions about the boundary study? I mean, we haven't, I can give you more information on Tuesday, after Tuesday morning.
So if you're projecting, maybe it'll take a year to complete, will we see changes like the following year or looking 2 years out?
It depends on what changes we're gonna be making.
I know.
Does,
Boundary changes are the worst. I'm just like,
We don't wanna do what, so if you hadn't heard, last year, Alpine made some boundary changes and they made the changes in like March or April, and then they were required to implement them by August. That's a very fast turnover. So yeah, it just depends on what the changes are,
does the
whether it's a
splitting-
program or a boundary. Yeah.
does the split of Alpine School District affect Provo in any way?
I don't see how it would, unless more kids come to Provo.
Aren't you guys gonna take a little portion of the canyon that wasn't?
We're hoping.
I thought that was part of the negotiations now.
Yeah, we're working on that. There's also a little section down here that's in Nebo School District, even though it's in Provo city boundaries. And we're hoping nobody lives there.
Okay.
It's just a business. Oh, we want that business money. We want those tax dollars coming to us. Yeah. Yeah, so up in the canyon, we fixed the boundary over here by Provo High. There's one over here, and there's one up in the canyon that we need to fix. And yeah, that will all depend on who inherits Alpine. Or if we can do it before Alpine splits. If they split.
Do you want to talk a little bit about, and then like, maybe you're not really in charge of this, but just, I know there are some parents here, Sunset View parents, that the whole sidewalk
Oh, yeah.
thing going on.
I don't know very much about it. You'd have to talk to the city council, but I just know that it's being, the plan has changed.
Right, they sent it out in the email.
Yeah.
They
Okay,
said
good.
it's been upgraded to curb and gutter. But because it's so late in the year, they can't start the construction and like something with the funding, so it's like they're just putting in a handicap accessible ramp or whatever.
Right.
So
And
the
a
curb and gutter.
crosswalk? Are they putting in a crosswalk in front of, Becky, in front of your subdivision? Okay. Cause I think that's the big issue is,
Is that at 1400 West?
yeah, cause I think that was the issue was those kids, so those kids can now cross the street there and come down the sidewalk on the north side.
I don't think
Because
there's gonna be a
they're-
crossing guard there, but there
Oh.
will be a
Probably not.
crosswalk.
You have to ask the SROs.
Okay.
They're gonna put-
At least a
Like
crosswalk.
no crossing guards
Sure
for
they-
their schools.
No, this is the
This is for
elementary.
some-
Oh, are you talking about first? Oh, for the other side.
Yeah,
Just for crossing guards. Seems like the crossing guard could just work both ways.
Crossing
Well, the
guards
crossing
further
guard's
down
all
on
the way
1600
down.
West.
by the freeway, by where the freeway overpasses.
No, there's
Where
one.
there is a crossing
There's a crossing guard right by the school.
By the school, the southwest corner of the school, there's a crossing guard.
Yeah.
But it's too far away. It's like all the way down the
Oh,
street. Yeah.
Oh.
The kids coming from the south, there's no sidewalk to get to that crossing
Yeah.
guard, so they take 1400 west up. There's no sidewalk from 1400 west over, so they end up just crossing there, 1400 west. So that's the whole thought of this sidewalk on the south side of 600 could connect 1400 west over to the crossing guard for those elementary school kids.
So are they gonna put a crosswalk in right there then? From 1400 west?
That's what
They've
that's what
said.
they've said. So, anyway,
I know they put the handicap accessible ramp in today.
there you go.
Yeah,
They poured the cement for this
I
morning.
think they said that's what they said, is they were putting your crosswalk in.
Good.
But we may have to do parent volunteer crossing guards or something there, because
There every morning anyway.
Good luck.
Does anyone else have
Yeah.
questions for Terry?
Sure, we had the open house for Shoreline last week. I hope every plan was able to go to it.
Very good.
Any
Is the
questions?
school gonna be done all the way?
I went and toured it today. Yeah, so the classroom with the worst problems is the sewing room.
Oh.
And there was someone in there fixing it while I was talking to the teachers, so. And they're just doing a mad dash before Tuesday.
Wow.
Get everything done, and if that's not done, we're gonna make sure all the hazardous things are out of the way, so middle school students do not have access to saws and paint and yeah, so they will have to fix all those things afterwards. I know that, and I spoke to the PE teachers, they'll have to be outside. They cannot be in the gym for the next little while because the gym floor hasn't been finished, and same with the dance classes, the dance floor has not been finished. But
How long are we thinking that it will be outside?
I don't know. You'll have to ask the dance teacher. No, we're not Wasatch.
Are you guys finishing with low VOC? So
The
you
what?
can, like finishing the floors with the low VOC, like
It just needs to, the floors are down, they just need to be,
Sealed.
seals, yeah, finished.
yeah,
So if you finish with low VOC, then you can get back in sooner. That's just like the pollutants in the air.
I don't know. Yeah, you can ask the principal. Yeah. But yeah, I walked around today to ask the teachers how things are going. And yeah, there's a bunch of things that still need to be fixed before Tuesday happens. Yeah. Any other questions?
Can I just read this?
Yeah.
So any of you that know, the city council is not over the sidewalks. Carrie's not over the sidewalks. Administration is over the sidewalks. So all of your sidewalk questions need to go to Public Works. Okay. So this is the email that we got from Gordon Hayden, who is our Public Works Director. It's actually Marcia's brother. And he's amazing, by the way. Hey. The city had originally received a grant for $100,000 from the Utah Department of Transportation Safe Sidewalk Grant for an asphalt path on 600 South. The city had been working with UDOT to schedule the construction of the asphalt path this year. Due to the UDOT design review process, the project would not be allowed by UDOT to go out to bid and construction until summer of 2025. Public Works had several other projects planned for the 2024 construction season. Several of these projects came in under budget, including the 1100 West Sidewalk project. It was determined that we should allocate those funds for the 600 South project. There was enough savings that we could upgrade the project to include concrete sidewalk, curb and gutter, and the needed storm drain system. However, we are too far along in the construction season to complete the redesign of the project and required time to bid the project as well as get a contract in place. To help with the safe walking routes, the city has contracted to install a handicap ramp and crosswalk at 600 South and 1400 West. This should help in the interim. So from what I saw yesterday, because they do send over city council an update before our council meetings, it'll go out to bid in spring of 2025 and it should be done by fall of 2025. That's all we have. But like I said, all questions about sidewalks on 1100 West and sidewalks on 6 South need to go to Public Works.
Any questions for me? All right.
Thanks so much, Terry.
have, have fun with your kids on Tuesday.
All right. Okay, now let's update on matching grants. I'll do my update really quick. So we were able to put in the two not park benches, the two picnic tables at the Lakewood Park. They're on either side. I love the placement. They're both really pretty shady. One's pretty close to the park and one's just a little bit further away. So you've got some options. I think it was Mike with the city. It was super awesome to work with. We had some youth come in and help us pull up the grass, and they poured the concrete, and we watched it, and I was so worried that someone was gonna like put their hands in it or like a dog was gonna walk through it. But they're like pristine. They look really good. So we're really grateful. That was awesome. And just like a little upgrade to our little area park. So
Can we give a big round of applause? Woo!
Tiffany.
We applied for a radar speed sign along 600 South in anticipation of the new Epic Sports Park coming into our neighborhood, as well as with the Shoreline School and Sunset View. And so we got all the service hours in for that and met it within in a rush of the time frame. It just came in this week, the radar speed sign. And I'm not sure, Vern, we wanted it closer to like 2050 West, and Vern did the traffic study and he said it will be closer to 1800 West. I guess we were more concerned about it before it hit our neighborhood being more effective closer to where we live, but either way, I think it'll be good to have, so.
It's for westbound traffic.
Yes, it's for
Right.
westbound traffic. Cause this traffic study showed that people were like on average 10 miles over or more. So it should see an improvement. I've seen an improvement even in my driving on Center Street going west when I'm like, oh, cause it like flashes at you and it's like, you're 36 and it's like, slow down. And the speed limit is 35. So it's a good visual reminder of like what your speed actually is and if your odometer's or if it's matching.
So you're just waiting, they're gonna
You're
install.
just, yeah, I haven't heard anything from Vern, but he's like, it arrived, we're gonna install it.
Okay.
Well, yay, Tiffany.
All right, so Rachel's gonna talk to us really quick about the FEMA flood maps, and then we'll open it for public comment for a few minutes, so.
Okay, so pretty much, I personally don't know a lot about this. They did have an open house last night at the rec center. So hopefully people were able to go to that. But I have some preliminary maps for the west side on this white table against the wall. That people can take. It's kind of taken that whole area that's west of the freeway and broken it up into little pieces so you can kind of see which one your house is at and go ahead and take that. So kind of what they're saying is FEMA is in the process of updating the flood insurance rate maps for Utah County. And they're saying that many properties in the floodplain that were not there before. And council members, correct me if I'm wrong, if a structure on an individual's property is found to be located within the 1% annual chance floodplain, they may be required to purchase flood insurance. So I don't understand what all that means.
Do you want me to do a little bit of an?
Yeah, so maybe Becky will go over that. I'm not sure exactly what. Yeah.
Rachel to do this.
Right.
This is such a big impact. So from everything that I understand, and this is also doesn't have much to do with the city council, this also has to do with public works, right? Jacob O'Brien is the contact that we have for this, but FEMA is actually doing this. So our dikes, since the Katrina floods, they're not up to the new standards that they have. Public Works isn't worried about the flooding because obviously we've had events in the last few years that have been a lot of water and they've managed it very, very well. However, it does not cross all the, doesn't cross all the Ts and dot all the Is. So FEMA went back through and they looked at all of our floodplain and it hit the west side pretty hard. So if you're in this, you might be required to purchase flood insurance where you've never purchased it before. So these are, according to the email that we've been corresponding with Jacob O'Brien, these are just preliminary maps. If you want to contest a map or do anything with the map, you need to do that through FEMA. And Rachel's really good to have all this information for Jamie Huff. This is the contact that he gave us. So you have to go through them. And usually I think a lot of the flood insurance is purchased through FEMA anyway. I think you can have some other personal insurance, but it all relies on these maps. So if you live anywhere near the river, you can see even these right here. Some ones that shocked me were the ones on the Lakeview Parkway, that new Osprey development, even on the bottom end is still floodplainish, right?
It's that first one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's still pretty floodplainish. And then it surprised me that a lot of north of the river on the Lakeview South ones were in there. I assumed it would be more to the south. I always had heard that south of the river was more of a problem than north of the river. But either way, they held their meeting last night. And so it's just a good thing if you guys live there, if you know someone that lives there, it's in their best interest to look at these and figure it out.
Like, how are they gonna enforce whether or not people buy flood insurance?
Your mortgage will enforce whether you buy
Oh, okay.
mortgage insurance.
So they check with FEMA and, okay.
A lot of them, they said over, the city's been giving presentations for a while, for a couple of years. So if you're an older couple and you have your mortgage paid for, you probably don't have much of a incentive to do it. Except for, a lot of times it may be harder to sell your home if you have to have flood insurance versus not. But a lot of the problems are the trees and the dikes. That's not allowable anymore. So even a lot of those residents were like, we would rather have trees than no trees. So it's vegetation and trees, what it's made up of, there's a whole bunch of stuff. But basically what affects our residents is your house in this and will it require you to have flood insurance or not? And if it does, how bad? So. yeah,
Becky, do you know if owners of structures in a floodplain would have access to flood insurance? I compare it to how we can't get earthquake insurance for the bricks on our home, for example.
Well, I don't know. I know that was something that they said at these, to go to these meetings and have these conversations. From what I understood, they did send out letters to people that are affected. Hopefully they got them.
Maybe some kind of specialized policy or something.
I don't know. I just, from all the things over the years, all the city council meetings that I've listened to over the years, they have said that you can purchase that through like FEMA or you can purchase it through insurance company. It just depends on how expensive it is and how much of a risk it's gonna be. But it's the non-upgrading of our dikes. That is the issue. Any other questions? Rachel?
Okay, we just had a question on Zoom. The information is available online, so on the Provo Neighborhood District 3 webpage, that's on the provo.org website. It's right here, all that information on that slide is here, and then you can click on, it'll bring up those maps, because the maps are kind of hard to read, and then you can blow it up nice and big on your computer.
Or on your
And-
phone, yeah.
Yeah, and see exactly where it's at, but it is online, so you can see those, and that information for Jamie Huff, and also the link to the FEMA website is also.
And I have to say, Jacob was really good when I asked. I said, when we got this information packet, I went back and I said, okay, Public Works, we need to put something out to District 3. What can we put out? And Jacob was really good to get these maps off of the FEMA website. He said they're kind of hard to find, but
I haven't been able to find them on this website, so I'm glad he sent them to you.
Yeah, Jacob is really good to work with. His name's Jacob O'Brien, but he's not over the FEMA maps. It's gonna be this FEMA person that he gave us, and he gave us all the contact information. Everything, like I said, he's really good. So, yeah.
But no, feel free to find the map that corresponds to where you live. Take it home with you. It's got Jamie Huff's contact information on it. Take a few for your neighbors if you want to. Those are just right there on that table.
Thanks, Rachel. Thank you. Thanks, Becky. Thanks, Rachel. All right, so now we're open for public comment. Does anyone have a comment?
So many. Yep. I'm gonna start.
Okay, we're running ahead on time.
I love when meetings are ahead of time.
Yeah.
I'll comment on that.
Anybody? Good?
Oh, I do have one.
Oh, okay.
I bumped into John Bunderson of Parks in the hall right before the meeting. He said West Park should be done the second week of September. They had some supply chain issues. He apologizes, but he says second week of September is when they're planning on West Park being done.
Can you remind us what they're doing? No?
They're updating the basketball courts
Yeah.
and redoing the grass or something like that.
Yeah, I think there's like a small playground.
It's pretty minimal.
When does Epic Park open?
They're having the big grand open September 21st. Is that right? September 21st is the big ribbon cutting grand opening.
And I did ask that they heavily advertise that. So Rachel would get some of that out. If you guys could heavily advertise that too, I think it would be.
Epic?
Yeah. They didn't give us details when we took our tour, but they said they're gonna have a pretty good.
What is that entail? What is opening? Epic Sports Park.
Like, give us any information on what it was gonna include. They just said it was gonna be a pretty big deal. And I asked that they heavily advertise it in West Provo. Yeah.
Be a good test of it.
Yeah. This is sport. Is it this?
They are. No, Ron Henderson is actually, his job is. They are putting all of the sports parks, so the Epic Sports Park, Footprinters, Fort Utah, Harmon Field, those are all going underneath the rec portion. So what's the rec director's name that was sitting by on that tour? I can't remember his name.
So not Doug Robbins, you mean just the rec?
Just the rec, not the rec center, the guy that's over all the sports programs, so. What's his name, Rachel, do you know?
I'm trying to remember.
I wanna say it's
Foster?
No,
Is it-
Foster
no,
is
not
second in
Foster?
command. No, the guy that was sitting next to me.
Yes, but not.
Anyway, he's the one that's
Riley?
over. Riley's the construction project manager.
Yeah.
So it's the other guy, the guy that was wearing the BYU hat.
Yeah, it's the director of Provo Rec.
No. He's the
Not
guy that's
building,
over.
but like, you're talking about
There's a
like.
female that's
what-
over the building, so
What's his position called?
he's over the rec programs.
We're gonna find this name.
Find his name, because he's the one that's over. He said now he's taking over those parks, and then Parks is gonna take over like the Lakewood parks. Lakeview.
Is it Ryland?
I wanna say it's Ryland.
Harlan Patterson?
Right. Cause
Yeah, I wanna
Riley works with John Bunderson.
Yeah, and then there's another one that's like Ryland that works for, he's the guy that drove us around in the parade for power. That's why I don't wanna say Ryland.
Jason. Jason.
We'd have to ask Doug. You know what, if you
He'll
ever have a
be cutting it,
question,
he'll be there.
call 311 and
Promise.
ask them who's the director over the sports programs in the city, and they will transfer you to the right person. I have faith in them, that they will do that. They don't have faith in me that I'm gonna guide you to the right name.
I think it is Ryland Patterson. I just found his name on the city council. Yeah, Ryland Patterson.
Does he work for parks, not for energy?
I don't know, he did the tour, it said Ryland Patterson, Foster, One Pavi.
It's not Foster.
I know, but Ryland, I'm pretty sure it's Ryland.
Yeah, let's just say it's round.
I'm pretty sure it's Ryland, yeah?
Yeah, that's it.
Like, figure out what it is. Okay.
Sports stuff.
Yeah, that's what I've done, sports and camps, so that's the reason.
So is that who would be in charge of?
No, it says sports complex manager, so that is it. Ryland Patterson, sports complex manager.
It sounds like, yeah, so Footprinters is gonna be considered a sports park? Oh, because of the baseball fields. So yes, he is the one we wanna talk to you about.
We want his cell phone number and his home address. I'm sure that'd be very appreciated.
R. Patterson. Provo.
R. Patterson.
R. Patterson, Provo.org.
Close inbox.
Is that MON for Patterson?
It's just RPATTERSON at provo.gov. 801-852-6604. Or 311 anywhere within city limits. And I'll transfer you to him. He'll be over Footprinters. He told me they're just switching that over when we do their tour. He'll be over Footprinters. He'll be over Fort Utah. He'll be over sports park.
What R. Patterson's first name is?
Ryland.
Okay.
Ryland Patterson.
And we've got, if you guys we've got the info.
He's really nice.
So something to think about with the sports park, I mean, well, not with the sports park, but with what you've been talking about with Footprinters. We should probably start looking at our matching grant projects for this next year. So that would definitely be something that, you know, we could look at, is maybe using some of that money to potentially clean up Footprinters, or, you know, do something for Footprinters. And all, you know, other ideas from other districts, I mean, other neighborhoods in our district. So that's probably be something that we jump on soon. So if you have ideas, reach out to your neighborhood, you know, your neighborhood person, tell them, hey, like, I have this idea. And so we can get those ideas and get, you know, get that money allocated and stuff. So, yeah. I think that's everything. Does anyone have any other comments or things they want to add? Okay, I guess we are adjourned. Is that what I say? It feels so official. Our next meeting is Wednesday, October 30th here. So come with your costume. Maybe don't. I don't know if they allow in the city building with your costume, but.
Is that the last one of the year,
Is that
Rachel?
awesome?
Yes,
Okay,
that will be your last meeting of the year.
okay.
Same time.
Same time, 6 o'clock. Yep. Rachel, will there be light refreshments still? Light refreshments, so there will be food.
It better be held.
Yes, there better be candy corn.